Finally, I'm in book 2. Yay! Okay. Part 1, story 2, cheating never pays. That's what the story says. And let me get my trusty book, ink marker, and everything, and let's get going. Esau never forgave his brother for cheating him out of his birthright. As for Jacob, he wasn't very happy about it either, because he never felt quite sure that the hard bargain he had made with his brother would be honored by his father. Back in his mind all the time was the thought that Isaac would ignore the deal as just a boyish prank, and so the birthright would belong to Esau after all. Year after year, the brothers drifted further and further apart. When Esau turned more and more to hunting, and Jacob to things around the camp. Meanwhile, Isaac was growing old, and his sight was failing. Thinking he was going to die, he sent for Esau, intending to give him a special parting blessing, just as though the birthright still belonged to him. As Esau came into the tent, Isaac said to him, "My son, behold, now I am old. I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out into the field, and hunt me some venison, and make me a savory meat, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die." Oh, that's the King James. I don't like. So he's thinking he's gonna die. Pretty much that's what he said. He's thinking he's gonna die because yes, he has heart palpitations and everything, and he couldn't see who was there, and he was ready to die. He was getting really up there in the ears. Glad to be able to do something for his father, and happier still that the old man wasn't going to let Jacob get away with the birthright after all, Esau hurried out, picked up his bow and arrows, and went off to hunt. But, sad to say, Rebekah had overheard what Isaac had said about the about blessing Esau on his return. Guessing that he meant it too, and that her precious Jacob wasn't going to have the best of everything after all. She quickly thought of a scheme to get her way. She wanted her mama's boy to be the head of everything. But let's get back to the story. Finding Jacob, she told him what had happened and suggested that, seeing Isaac was nearly blind, it would be easy to deceive him. Oh, so they were going to lie to him because it was very easy to. "Obey my voice," she said firmly. "Go out to the flock and fetch me hence 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loved, and thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death." So she didn't know about the little things, so about with Esau and Jacob. She really didn't know it. So she was aiming to get her boy to have everything. At first, Jacob didn't want to do it. He was scared. Not because he thought his mama's idea was wrong, but in case he might be found out. Esau, my brother, he said, is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. My father proventured will fill me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver, and I will bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. He had smooth skin, like I said. He had smooth skin, and Esau's hairy, like really thick hairy. That's my imagination. Rebecca, however, had set her heart on Jacob getting that blessing, and finally talking him into doing what she wanted. And there is an illustration before I go to the next page. There is an illustration down at the bottom. Okay, go to the next page. So Jacob fetched 2 kids, and his mother made a meal she knew Isaac loved. Then she dressed Jacob in some of Esau's best clothes, and to complete the deception, put some of the skins of the kids on his hands and his neck, where his father might possibly stroke him, touch him, on his forearm and on the back of his neck. What a sham he was when he went into his father's tent with the steaming plate of food, and how frightened he must have felt lest Isaac should discover his wicked trickery. It was a wonder he didn't spill the gravy all over the place, but he felt worse still when Isaac began to act suspicious. "Who art thou, my son?" asked the old man, trying hard to see who had come into his tent. "I am Esau, thy firstborn," Jacob said, trying to make his voice sound like Esau. "I have done according as thou badest me. Badest me. That's what it says. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, and thy soul may bless me." Now Isaac became even more suspicious. "How is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son?" he asked. "Because the Lord thy God brought it to me," said Jacob, making his crime worse by bringing God into it. Ooh. By this time, Isaac was more sure than ever that something was wrong. "Come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not." Jacob moved towards his father, probably shivering in his shoes lest he be found out. Isaac began to feel all over him. He was puzzled. "The voice is Jacob's voice," he said, "but the hands are the hands of Esau." He paused a moment. Then again, "Art thou my very son Esau?" And Jacob, lying to the last, repeated, "I am." Satisfied, Isaac that ate the food Jacob brought, and afterwards blessed him, saying among other things, "Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brother, and let thy mother's son bow down to thee." Not doubting, Isaac had been thinking for days about all the good things he promised his eldest son, so dear to him, and now said them all to the wrong boy. Oh boy. The blessing received, Jacob hurried out, tore off Esau's clothes, and tried to look as innocent as he could. But he thought his brother wouldn't find out, and he was greatly mistaken. Hardly had Jacob left the tent when Esau returned, and just and that was a sad moment. Get my mind straight one of these days. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end in blessing Jacob, that Jacob was yet scared scared scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting, never dreaming that anything had gone wrong. He went on making the savory meal, then happily carrying it to his father. Let my father arise, he said, and eat of the son of his son's venison, and thy soul may bless me. Then the blow fell. Who art thou? Demanded his father in a loud voice, angrily, that someone could play with him like this. So he was really ticked off. Ticked off. And in the first book, Isaac was not very easily to be ticked off. And this is the painting. That's there. It's in the book. And painting after Dore. Dore with an accent. With his mother's help, Jacob put on hairy skins over his arm and neck to deceive his blind father Isaac, so that he might receive the blessing intended for his older brother Esau. So let's get back to the story. Esau stood astonished. What could be the matter? Did his father not recognize him? I am thy son, thy firstborn, Esau. Who? Cried Isaac, while trembling all over. Who? Where is he that hath had taken venison and brought it to me? I have eaten it all before thou comest, and have blessed him. Oh, King James. Esau was broken-hearted. What he had thought might be his last labor of love for his dear old father was completely spoiled. The food he had so carefully prepared with his own hands was not wanted, and now the blessing promised he had been promised had been given to someone else. It was too much. He broke down and wept, crying out in sorrow, "Bless me, even me also, O my father." No more pitiful words were ever spoken. But what could Isaac do? He had given the blessing to Jacob, and according to custom in those days, he couldn't take it back. He gave Esau another blessing. Truly, it wasn't the same as, and Esau knew it. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, "The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob." He not only said it in his heart, he told his friends, and someone passed it on to Rebekah, and she told Jacob. Of course, from the first Jacob had of course, from the first Jacob had been afraid that this might happen. Now he became more afraid than ever and decided he only that his only safety lay in flight. Rebecca suggested that he flee to his uncle Laban's home in Haran, and this he agreed to do. Tarry with him a few days, she said, until thy brother fury turns away, and he forgets that which thou hast done to him. Then I will send, and will fetch thee hence. Why should I be deprived also of you both in one day? Little did she know of the future, or of the price both she and her son would pay for this miserable deed. In one day she did indeed lose both her boys, and broke her heart, for Esau hated her, and Jacob she never saw again. She expected him back in a few days, but he never returned while she was alive. As for Jacob, he lost both his home and his mother. For years he suffered great loneliness and disappointment, and was never free from fear and remorse for what he had done. Some boys and girls today think that cheating is smart, but it isn't. If you have any doubts, think about Jacob and the price he had to pay for being so mean and selfish. Cheating never pays. And then, of course, illustration up at the top of the book actually has Esau bringing the second meal to Isaac and him asking, "Who are you?" And that's on this page. And that was story 2 in part 1. And we'll get to the other stories here soon. Um, and I'll see you the next time.